Wednesday, October 15, 1986, Biloxi, Mississippi. 22-year-old Amanda Sue Wittmann leaves her rental for a routine practicum run. By first light the next morning, her yellow Honda Civic sits off route at a highway truck stop. No crash, no note. A partial male DNA profile is recovered from the cabin. Amanda is gone. For 38 years, rumor fills the gaps, until low template rework plus SNP-based forensic genealogy links that profile to William Billy Crawford, a man never named in the early file. Amanda's Tuesday routine is stable. Rental house, Westside Biloxi, short in-town drive to the elementary school for afternoon practicum. Distance house-school, occurs or prox-detach 3.2 kilometers on low-speed arterials. 3 controlled intersections, sidewalks continuous. Weather, no reported precipitation. Typical mid-October Gulf Coast evening, visibility high for in-town conditions. She departs in a yellow Honda Civic. No documented detours from prior week's route. When Amanda fails to return, her roommate Jenny, nursing student, runs the corridor 3 times by car, daylight into dusk, scanning verges and ditches for skid, debris, or disabled vehicle signatures. She finds no Civic, no glass, no gouge marks, no fluid trail. That knocks down the breakdown accident nearby scenario and pushes the working hypothesis toward an intercept early in the route, or a rapid off-route displacement. At 19:15, Amanda's mother phones police. The roommate reports the missed check-in and the negative drive-backs. The Civic is located not by the school nor the home corridor, but at a highway truck stop outside the normal envelope, a site with round-the-clock traffic, and easy ingress-egress to ramps. Vehicle position is orderly. No collision damage reported in the file excerpts. Interior processing yields a partial male DNA profile. Later lab notes associate loose rope fibers from the cabin, with stock later found to be sold locally that era. The relocation to a commercial lot rather than abandonment along the short in-town route is a primary contradiction to early en route mishap talk. Site selection matters. Years later, the suspect pool narrows around a man with routine access to that truck stop property through contract grounds work. Someone who would know lighting, camera gaps, 1980s limited, and night shift patterns. That employment nexus becomes the first non-rumor link between the vehicle's final position and a specific human. Found not found. Initial. No scene narrative indicates crash debris, forced entry on the Civic, or a stalled vehicle footprint. Nothing in the roommate's repeated passes indicates a disabled car along the house-school leg. The off-route placement plus the clean corridor argues relocation rather than mechanical failure, and a hand guiding the move. Detailed itemization of in-car artifacts and later corroborators, e.g. rope fiber comparators and non-public property findings, follows in blocks 2 to 4. Time window, upper bound from late afternoon departure to the mother's 1915 report is actual equals 195 minutes. Roommate's 3 negative corridor checks compress the likely intercept to the first segment after departure, house-school, i.e. a sub-hour operating window before wider search attention engaged. The vehicle's appearance off-route at the truck stop before the next morning supports early diversion rather than a late-night event. Working theories on day 1 are simple. A. Breakdown or minor crash on the short house-school leg. B. Voluntary detour with a friend or sudden trip. C. Opportunistic stop at the truck stop leading to abduction. D. En route intercept with later vehicle relocation. We test each against minutes, meters, and trace. Break down accident, The corridor is only approximately 3.2 kilometers, 3 signals, curbs, and continuous sidewalks. The roommate drives it 3 times before full dark and logs no glass, no gouge marks, no fluid plume, no tire furrows off the asphalt. Underhood. No fresh hand oils or tool scuff on the latch. Column shroud intact. Fuse covers seated. If the Civic dies on the leg, we expect stalled vehicle footprint or a tow trace. Neither surfaces. A roadside mishap theory fails on distance and debris. Voluntary detour. Person IDs remain in the cabin, keys remain in the ignition, no overnight clothing, no medication kit, no cash withdrawal or planned absence communicated at school. Amanda is a punctual practicum student with a 16:30 start. Missing a check-in is off pattern. Voluntary leave typically presents with taken funds, intentionally parked vehicle near the residence, or a note, none present. The "she just left" hypothesis conflicts with retained property and routine. Ride with an acquaintance. Landline checks show no outgoing call from the rental in the departure window. Supervisors at the elementary confirm no advance request for a ride. If a friend picks her up en route, the Civic should remain on the corridor or at the school lot. Yet it appears the next morning at a highway facility 24 kilometers off route. Inside the cabin, we see 3 1 to 2 millimeter blood droplets on the driver's seat and a broken acrylic embedded in the passenger headrest. Those are struggle-consistent artifacts, not markers of a consensual handoff. Truck stop by Amanda. The lot manager opens at $600 and notes the Civic present by 6:12. The car is parked cleanly, nose out, no fresh gravel spray, no curb strike. Seat rails are set back approximately 60 to 70 millimeters beyond Amanda's typical notch. The left mirror is swung wider than in prior roommate photographs. If Amanda drives herself there, we expect her habitual seating and mirror geometry. We do not see it. The lot placement reads like a relocator's drop. Short dwell, tidy staging, exit to ramps. Stranger abduction on the corridor with later relocation fits more evidence. The corridor search is clean. The car exterior is clean. The interior holds low template blood and a single broken nail plus a class ring wedged between cushions. Those are consistent with a brief in-cabin altercation and a taller second driver taking the wheel. The time window from customary departure to the first missed arrival call is approximately 9 to 15 minutes. That is enough to intercept at a low visibility pull-off, suppress, and move the Civic before family and patrol saturate the leg. Early lab limitations also shape what detectives can and cannot conclude. In 1986, serology yields presumptive positive for blood, but volume is too low for reliable ABO or enzyme typing. RFLP requires far more template than the 3 microdrops provide. Latents. Multiple smears with partial ridge detail on high touch points, but no CPI quality set. Humidity and handling marks degrade contrast. Rope fibers recovered from the rear floor mat are cataloged, but at the time only compared by class characteristics. Each of these constraints delays exclusion-inclusion calls and forces the case to live on negatives and contradictions rather than direct ID. What should be present, if the early theories were true, but isn't, for breakdown, hood prints and debris, for voluntary leave, removed essentials and a different parking choice, for a consensual truck stop meet, seating set to Amanda's stature, and a purchase trail, for a lot abduction, vehicle disorder, or forced entry. Instead, we get an orderly exterior, off-route staging, interior struggle traces, and geometry set for a taller driver. The file's weight shifts accordingly, away from mishap or choice, toward a controlled intercept with post-event relocation. Community response scales fast and local. By 2000 on 15 October, church groups and classmates assemble at the Biloxi PD lot. Ad hoc foot teams are assigned the 3.2 kilometer, 2.0 mile house-school corridor in 400 to 600 meter segments with ditch and culvert checks at each driveway cut. Sheriff's units run arterials in the river pull-offs. No collision field, no glass, no fluid trail. At first light, 17 October, the Civic is reported at a highway truck stop around the 24 kilometers, 15 miles in Risseln East, doors intact, keys left, purse and IDs present. That relocates command focus from a residential corridor to a commercial lot with 24/7 turnover and minimal 1980s surveillance. What gets preserved in 1986? Full exterior-interior photo log. Lift cards from high-touch zones, wheel, shifter, column, interior door pulls. Tape lifts from both front seats. Swabs of 3 1 to 2 millimeter blood drops on the driver cushion. A broken acrylic fragment needle nose from the passenger headrest. Loose rope fibers recovered from the rear floor mat. Vacuum sweep of footwells. Packaging is paper, breathable, with evidence tape and initial across seal. Chain tags show intake at scene, transfer to sheriff evidence, then to the state lab within 18 hours. Latents are partials with ridge interruption from fabric wear. None meet a CPI threshold. Serology confirms blood, but volume is below robust ABO/enzymatic typing limits. RFLP requires more template than present. The rope is classed only. No single source identification in that era. Parallel collection covers the non-vehicle trail. From the rental, pager logs, class schedule, a daybook noting practicum hours, and a last 48-hour phone sheet, the bedroom photo set documents routine left mid-task, books open, no packed effects. From school, attendance and supervisor call times that bracket the 16:30 miss. From the truck stop, opening manager statement, pump and register tapes, and a crude lot sketch with stall numbering, pre-CCTV. These items are boxed under a single case master with sub-envelopes for perishable trace, then bench-stored at county before state custody. Decades later, the file is digitized under a statewide cold case initiative, but the physicals remain the anchor. The microblood, the nail fragment, the rope fiber. Why leads decay? Time, technology, and scope. In the late 80s, early 90s, no cameras on the corridor. The truck stop lot has gaps typical for that period. CODIS uptake grows in the mid-90s, but Amanda's cabin swabs yield only a partial male profile, enough to exclude loud suspects, a multi-state drifter, a volatile local, not enough to hit a named person. The result is investigative subtraction. Rumor lists get shorter, certainty does not increase. Witness memory degrades, vehicle turnover at the lot defeats cashier recall, second-hand sightings multiply without corroboration. Chain of custody holds, but the calendar hurts. Evidence is re-inventoried twice. Mid-2000s move to centralized storage, late 2010s digitization, with barcoding added and seals re-witnessed. Auditors note temperature swings typical of legacy rooms, but no broken seals. Detectives flag contamination risk as a trial issue. Age of packaging, multiple handlers. Yet the record shows continuous seals on the key trace envelopes. The case slides to cold status when the partial male profile sits unmatched for years. Family updates taper after the mother's death in 2019. Then restart when the state cold case unit forms and pulls Amanda's box for a structured rework. By the early 2020s, the file is scan complete, priority tagged, and queued for low template DNA reprocessing with downstream options if yield improves. The working picture at that handoff is lean but consistent. Clean corridor, off-route staging, interior struggle markers, and a non-CODIS partial male profile. Exactly the kind of preserved trace that can justify modern re-extraction, and, if allele count allows, a forensic genealogy upload. Rework starts with what survived. 1. The 3 1 to 2 millimeter blood drops lifted from the driver's cushion. 2. A small fabric cutting from the passenger headrest adjacent to the embedded broken acrylic. 3. A tape lift vacuum composite from the front footwells that originally screened positive for short rope fibers. Each item is re-inventoried, photographed, weighed, and repackaged under a clean bench protocol, ISO class hood, fresh craft, new seals, dual initials. Negative controls are opened and closed alongside each specimen. Historical seals are preserved in a photo log for trial. The case qualified for the state cold case priority queue after digitization and unit stand-up. That administrative step is the reason this box is back on a lab bench at all. Extraction is low template by design. The blood swabs are rehydrated and processed on a silica bead lysis workflow with inhibitor removal. The headrest cutting is trimmed to 3 by 3 millimeters and subjected to a gentle digest to protect fragment length. qPCR, male-female targets, returns. Driver seat swab, 24 to 36 pg per microliter, DI egredually 3.1. Headrest cutting, 12 to 18 pg per microliter, DI egredually 4.0. Footwell composite below 10 pg per microliter, but male target present. Those yields are marginal for legacy STR panels. A modern mini STR assay adds a handful of alleles, but still falls short of CODIS acceptance. On that basis, the lab pivots. Preserve what remains for SNP work, rather than exhaust it chasing an index that will not load. Vendor's SNP profiling, law enforcement contract, uses a low-input library with target recovery across 600K autosomal positions. The driver's seat extract meets the upload gate. Call rate, 92 to 94%, mean read length in the 120 to 150 BP band, heterozygosity consistent with single source. The headrest extract is held for confirmatory use. Internal matches to house personnel and first responders are excluded via elimination buckles. Contamination screens remain negative. The existing partial male profile from the 1980s file remains in play as a corroborator, but it is the new SNP set that creates downstream options. Upload is restricted to opt-in law enforcement portals. GEDmatch Pro and FTDNALE both permit violent crime uploads under their policies. No raw data is shared outside those frameworks. The search is for investigative leads, not for a standalone probable cause ID. The lab records the gatekeeping steps: case type, consent status, search scope, then posts the driver seat SNP data. Within hours, the dashboard produces workable relatives, not parents or siblings, but several mid-range matches, 3 to 4th cousins, plus one 2C1R class hit. This is exactly the category where genealogy earns its keep, distant but triangulatable. Tree build proceeds in 3 tracks. A. Cluster analysis of the top 10 matches, shared CM, 75 to 230 cm, to identify a common ancestral couple. B. Geographic pruning to the Gulf Coast counties. C. Age-sex filtering for males who are 18 to 35 in October 1986. Public records, voter rolls, obits, land deeds, collapse the tree to a single surname branch that stayed local to Harrison County. From that branch, 2 adult males meet the year of crime age band. One is documented out of state in 1986. The other, William Billy Crawford, worked contract grounds at the exact truck stop property where Amanda's Civic was found. That employment nexus is the first concrete, non-rumor bridge from the genetic signal to a person with routine access to the lot and knowledge of lighting, ingress, and shift patterns. Close contenders are ruled out systematically. Mismatched ages against the 1986 window, contrary residence histories, and employment that placed them groter 300 kilometers away during the term. The deliverable back to detectives is tight: a sourced tree to the MRCA, a shortlist worksheet, Midno Crawford 3 living males, and a one-page rationale tying Crawford to the truck stop environment. With that, the case moves from genealogical lead to traditional proof, surveillance, a lawful reference sample, and match statistics. Detectives treated the genealogy hit as lead, not proof. The shortlist from the tree was 3 living males. Only one worked the truck stop grounds when Amanda Civic was staged there in 1986, William Billy Crawford. Employment records and lot maintenance invoices tied him to weekly access, night hours, and knowledge of lighting and ingress-egress. That operational nexus converted a genetic pointer into a target for traditional proof. A surveillance team documented routine, depart 6:15, convenience store stop, hardware shift. On day 4, they collected a lawfully abandoned item, disposable cup, and submitted it under a blind lab number. STR development yielded a full single-source male profile. Comparison against the preserved driver seat blood, re-extracted in Block 4, returned concordance at all callable loci. Mixture tests were negative. Statistics were expressed simply for charging. RMP less than 1 in 10 to the 12 across major U.S. pop groups, LR less than 10 to the 9 for same source versus unrelated. A court-ordered buckle then reproduced the same profile, closing the loop from discard to reference to cabin trace. Chain of custody logs show continuous seals on the historic envelopes and dual initial reseals on all 2020's openings. With probable cause established, warrants issued for residence, truck, and outbuilding. Property search recovered 1. Cut lengths of rope matching class characteristics and retail lineage of fibers originally vacuumed from Amanda's front footwells. 2. Soil with lime residues from a backyard trench. 3. GPR-marked disturbed subsurface zones logged for excavation. The rope provenance converged with Crawford's historical employment. Identical stock sold at his 1986 workplace. None of these existed in the case file before. Each stood independent of genealogy. Arrest occurred at 6:10, weekday, front walk of the Elm Street residence. Crawford complied, no force used. Scene team documented hands, clothing, and vehicle interior. A contemporaneous buckle was obtained under the warrant to replicate the STR call set. Post Miranda, he made limited statements. Prosecutors built the charging package around DNA, vehicle staging logic, and employment lot access records rather than admissions. Charging language reflected the evidence path. By identification via STR confirmation of the male contributor to trace recovered from Amanda's driver's seat. By access opportunity via grounds contract records at the truck stop where her Civic was found. And by corroborating physicals, rope class match, residence findings. The genealogy upload remained documented as an investigative lead compliant with LE portal policies, not as the standalone basis for probable cause. Grand jury returned an indictment, detention held without bond due to flight risk and severity, case moved to trial track with preservation orders on all physicals. Technical closeout. What was tested? Low template re-extraction from the 3 micro drops on the driver's cushion. Vendor snip to build the tree. STR from a discard and confirmatory buckle. Thresholds. Upload call rate odor 90%. STR concordance full across callable markers, LR over 10 to the desegative satisfied lab and DA policy, COC intact through 2 re-inventories. Why it met probable cause? Independent STR match to the male source in Amanda's car, plus work access to the exact lot, plus rope or retail lineage at residence. Human beat. Rebecca Wittmann left the courthouse with a copy of the order sealing Amanda's evidence box for permanent retention. 3 lines in her statement. We have a name, we have standards met. We can finally sleep. Thanks for watching.